This past weekend, I had my children with me, and they said, "Mom, let's do a puzzle." How many of you like to do puzzles? How many of you think it's a form of torture? I happen to be dyslexic, and trying to find where this little jagged little tiny piece fits does not work well when your brain doesn't work like that. So I said yes, because I was a good mother, but I sat there and just thought, this is just awful. And we got the whole thing put together, and guess what? There were 3 pieces missing. We looked on the floor, we looked on the chairs, we looked in the box, we looked everywhere, but there were 3 pieces missing. So it wasn't complete. It just sat there with these holes saying, "We're not complete. The picture is not done." When I read the story from Matthew today, one thing struck me more than anything was the image of John the Baptizer. It says that he's dressed in camel hair, and he has a leather belt, and he's eating locusts. How many of you would invite him into your home? How many of you would see someone out there that's wearing that outfit and think, "Oh, he's going to be my best friend"? Most of us, I think, would run like crazy to the other side of the road. But as I started thinking about it and listening to this story, we need to have the story of John the Baptizer. He is an important part of our puzzle because he tells us to come and repent and to make room because one who is greater than I is coming. We need to hear the story of John. We need to get ourselves ready during this season of Advent. We need to be prepared so that we can bring the whole puzzle into view as we walk closer and closer to Bethlehem. Because if we didn't have John telling us to prepare and to make room in our hearts, would we really be able to welcome all the joy and the hope and the peace and the love that the Christ child offers us? I started thinking about that, and I started to think about what piece am I to play in this story this year? What piece is God asking me to be? This is the week that we celebrate peace, another form of peace, harmony and love and acceptance and compassion and joy. But I don't think any of those things can happen unless we think about what our piece in that puzzle is. This is Peace Sunday. And I want you to think about, what is God asking you to do? Is God calling you to be like John the Baptist and be a voice out in the wilderness proclaiming to get ready for the Lord? Is God asking you to have a piece in the puzzle, to welcome and love others, and to be one who shows the compassion and love of Christ? What is the peace that God is asking you to share this week and the weeks to come as we continue our journey to Advent and beyond? This week I met with the music committee, and we were talking about music stuff, of course. It was the music committee. But as we got talking, one of the things that one person said to me is, "I don't understand why we're talking about the need to be a welcoming community. What does that mean?" And I said, well, a welcoming community is one who lives into the love and the hope and the promise of the babe of Bethlehem, who takes their faith seriously, To be welcoming means that we take our piece of the puzzle seriously and that we do things to welcome others. For instance, I said to them, if we had somebody that was in a wheelchair, would they be able to come up here and sing with our choir? Not really, as it is today. That would be very difficult. I said to be welcoming and to carry the peace of Christ out into the world and welcome others in, we need to be aware of those who might have visual difficulties or hearing difficulties. Are we as a church welcoming them in by making the effort to make worship open to them? Are we sharing the peace of Christ by welcoming all into our worship and accepting them for who they are? We are a wonderful, welcoming church, but there's one thing that is absolutely true about being a Christian. I hate to tell you this, but it's true. We always have a growing edge. Do you know what that means? It means we always have something that God is calling us to do a little bit better. We always have to look at our piece of the puzzle and to think about what can we do to carry the message of Christ further. And you know what? You never make it. There's always something else that you can do to improve, right? Because none of us are perfect. So we always have a growing edge. Are we welcoming to all people in our congregation? What is our growing edge? I have battled over this all week. I have prayed all week to ask the Spirit if I should share this story with you. And the Spirit is asking me to hold on to my peace and to share it with you. We are a welcoming community, but we do have some growing edges to share the peace of Christ with others. When I first came here, on the very first day that I was here with my children, someone in the congregation, and I'm not blaming anybody, I'm saying this is our growing edge, went up to my oldest and made fun of the fact that she has a diamond in her nose. And then came over to me and said, that is awful. This past September, when my youngest came here, and she had dyed the bottom of her hair bright purpley pink, someone in our church came up and told her it was ridiculous. We have growing edges. We have places where God is calling us to carry the peace of Christ into the world. We are not all the same. We may be the same inside of our hearts, but we look differently on the outside. And God has made us different. But God has called us to be carriers of the peace, to carry our peace of Christ and to accept others. To accept those who talk differently than us, or walk differently than us, or wear different clothes than us, or look differently than us. To accept those who may have piercings, or those who may have tattoos, or those who may want to color their hair polka dot. We are called to accept everyone. Everyone. And when Lee told that story today about the young man in Australia who took his life because of his sexual orientation, my heart wanted to cry. And when I heard the story of that young woman who killed herself in front of her parents because she was so bullied because she was overweight, I just was crushed. As a parent, as one who has an overweight child, as one who's overweight herself, we have to learn to be more compassionate and loving towards each other. we lit the candle of peace today. All of us are called, because we are Christians, because we have made the decision to follow the one who died on the cross, to be instruments of Jesus' peace. I'm asking you this week to take out this little puzzle piece that you were given and to ask yourself and to pray, what piece am I to play in this puzzle? I hope that this Advent, God will not look down and see missing pieces like I did when I tried to do that puzzle with my kid. Instead, I'm hoping that God will look down and see all of us praying and asking, how can I share the peace and the love, the hope, and the joy of the babe of Bethlehem with our world? May the peace of Christ surround you. May you find the courage this week to be the voice like John the Baptist in the wilderness and preach love with your actions, with your words. May you be the one who carries peace out into the world. God bless you all. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor.